This is the Speakeasy Podcast, the behind the scenes, your number one behind the scenes podcast that talks about what it means to be the successfully paid speaker and author. I am your host, Altovise Pelzer, the voice coach, professional speaker, certified life coach, Amazon bestselling author and podcaster, and founder of the World Voice League, a community of entrepreneurs, speakers, and authors who come together in order to impact social change. And so today's episode is based off of an article that I saw. And so I really do need you guys to share this out because, again, like I said, today's topic can really help someone. This part is the part that we don't realize. So, there's often this discussion where if you're someone who does not have your voice heard, then there's going to be personal ramifications. There's going to be personal things as well as generational things that occur from you not having your voice heard. There's a compromise. So if I don't speak my truth, if I don't speak what's really going on, there is, and a lot of us in our families have seen the results of this. We've seen what this looks like years and years and years and years after the fact. But guess what? There's still going to be sometimes a compromise when we speak our voice. We got to understand. So when I speak up for myself, is there some compromise that I have to have? Is there something that's going to happen to me? We always go through these questions in our mind, right? Even if you're someone who's speaking out on domestic violence, you're someone who's speaking out on molestation, you're someone who's speaking out on injustices, you're speaking out against the government, you're speaking out against what's going on in any area, in any facet. When you speak out, you go through just as much, if not even more ridicule than when you bite your tongue. So this part, I need you guys to understand. Why? Because there's so many of you that are fearful of speaking up. There's so many of you that are fearful of having their voice heard. But guess what? Just because you have it heard, believe me, you're still going to go through some things and that's okay. But there's support for you on the other side. How about that part? So let me tell you about the article that really sparked this. So I was going through, and I normally go through and I'll see an article or something that will really stand out, and I'll read it, not often, but I will. And literally it talked about a woman in Delaware who won $1.5 million, I believe, $1.5 million. And they said, even though she won it in a discrimination suit against her employer, she would probably never see that money. Now, Houston, we have a whole freaking problem. So you go through the stress of going and to court and fighting this battle and standing up. And when I tell you what it was she was standing up for, you're going to say, oh. See, this is how speakers are born. This is how significant speeches are born. This is where it comes from. It comes from the situations like these. So she went through an ordeal because at the time she was a new mother and she was breastfeeding. And so she went through no privacy. She went through not always being able to go and pump, even though company policies, and most companies will have this policy. Company policy says that you can take time to pump. What they fail to realize is that there are many companies, especially in the retail and fast food world, where you may be on the clock by yourself for any length of time. So you can't go pump. And let's just be real. By all means, there's going to be rush hour moments where you can't step away. But we know as mothers that guess what? When you need to pump, you need to pump. Let's be real. Let's be honest. When you need to pump, you need to pump. Any of my mothers that understand what's going on here, that understand the real deal when it comes to being a mother and breastfeeding. And even if you're not breastfeeding, you still have to pump sometimes just to get rid of, it being too much, you being in pain, and trying to work in that is never a good idea. It's never a good thing. So you have a woman who, and she sued, it was KFC. She sued KFC and won, guys, won the suit. She won. But what they said is that literally the company, KFC, would probably go and appeal it or try to settle with her out of court for a lesser amount. Do you believe that she should take the lesser amount? Let's be real. Let's be honest. Even though she won 1.5, do you believe that she should have, or that she should take a lesser amount? Do you believe that should even be a factor, that she could possibly get a lesser amount? Do you believe that this listen, because this is the thing. Think about it like this. This is 2019. Why are we still going through this in 2019? I'm sorry. We can have AI robots determine if you are someone who is not who you say you are. We have AI robots that determine if you're posting too much, but we can't get it together when it comes to a woman being able to breastfeed and still work. What is that? Please explain. Please explain. I don't understand. Have we gone back in the Stone Ages? Have we gone backwards? Maybe it's just me. Maybe all of you see something different, and I need you to let me know if you're seeing it live in the comments or replay in the comments. I need you to let me know if you're seeing this, if you're hearing this on the Speakeasy Podcast. I need you to let me know. Let me know. Why? Because guess what? Again, as a mother, I feel as though this shouldn't even be up for discussion. If she won, she won. If you as a company did not do what you were supposed to do, then why should you even have the option of having this up for discussion? That part. Why should you even have the permission that this can be up for discussion? So here it is. What's the compromise when we speak up and have our voice heard? As a speaker, when you're getting on stage, as a writer, when you put something on paper, there's always going to be the ridicule from the opposing side, right? There's always going to be the naysayer or the person that says that, what you're saying is absolutely wrong. So there's going to be people that say, that as a mother, then she shouldn't have been at work if she still needed to express. They're going to say that as a mother, well, then she should have been better prepared to go back, or she should have took more time off. This is the thing, is there's always going to be someone who gives you, well, you could have did X, Y, and Z. Now, this is the thing. In this situation, they were not paying her bills. They were not taking care of her children or her child. They were not taking care of anything when it comes to her. I mean, let's be honest. The reason why women go back to work after having a child is because they still need to pay bills. Yes, we get, 8 weeks? 8 weeks that we can take off, 6 months that we can take off. But the reality is it takes 8 weeks for us to start that healing process and, really be able to physically. But who really wants to drop their child off at 8 weeks? They really don't. And that's okay. But we have to understand, here we are. You have a woman who just gave birth. And again, as a company, you have it in your documents, you have it in your policies and procedures that a woman that is coming back is able to take time out to express. I've worked in companies where we've had to go and maneuver schedules in order to be able to give that coming back, that mother, some extra added people that can cover it while she went and expressed. You as the company, you as the manager need to make this happen. It's just what it is. So here it is. You didn't make it happen. So she spoke up. She had her voice heard. She said, well, I don't care. She said, I don't care what you may say that I should have took off more time. She just said, I don't care what people may say. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to not only speak up for myself, but speak up for other mothers. This is where the speaker is born. People always ask me, how do you become a speaker? What is it that prompted you to become a speaker? What is it that really pushes you to have your voice heard? This is where it happens. This is where it starts. It's the thing that rubs you the wrong way simply because you remember and you see that, guess what? There's an injustice that happened. There's a pain, and the pain is still going on. There's an injustice, and the injustice is still going on. So somebody needs to speak up. Now, I'm not saying that she may be the one to become a speaker. She may write a book. She may not. She may go and speak at, for other women in small groups. She may not. You never know. But this is where it is birthed. No pun intended. This is where it is birthed. This is where it comes from. So I need you guys to understand that we've been silent very long when it comes to situations like these. We have. As a speaker, this is not a topic that I talk about because I personally did not have to go through this particular scenario. So this is not my story. But there may be somebody that's listening that this is your story. That this is the story you endured. That this is the story that you lived, painfully might have lived through, as well as any other thing. So what's the compromise? So the compromise always comes in is, do I go further? And I need you to have that question in your head. I need you to have that question in your mind because that will always be the question that comes up. Someone who's been through molestation, someone who's been through abuse, when they come out of it, they always have that question in their mind, do I go further? So do I go and file charges? Do I go and take this to court? Do I sue this person? Do I go and speak out and become an advocate? Do I go and write a book about this? There's always that, do I go further? What is going to be the next step? And here's where the compromise comes in, because we have to understand that even though it's my voice, there's always going to be somebody else who's affected by it. That's the compromise. When I started talking about being the victor over molestation, as well as the mother of 2 teen girls, who are victors over molestation, the compromise was that I was not only sharing my story, but I was sharing theirs. There's a compromise. Because once it's shared, you can't take it back. Once the information is out there, you can't take it back. That conversation is forever in the universe. That is forever going to be in interviews and at speaking events that I've been a part of. It's forever going to be a part of my story. So that is not going anywhere. My homelessness story, that is not going anywhere. So that's the first compromise, is that no matter what, that story will always be there and it will last well beyond where I am. It'll last well beyond me, well beyond my children. So that's compromise, number one is, do I take this further? Where is this actually going to go? And then after we see that part, now we see, okay, so I don't take it further. Maybe I do take it further. So if I do take it further, how much further do I go? Am I going to write a book? Am I going to speak on stages? Am I going to do podcast interviews? How much further am I going to go? For her, because of this instance of her literally them saying that, she won 1.5 million and she may never get it. Now what? Now, if she wants to go further, now is going and talking to news stations. Now it's going and put it in out there. Now it's doing Facebook Live. Now it's doing Instagram Live. Now it's going and connecting with other women who have gone through the same thing. Now it's going and literally building a community. Can I tell you that there's this fear that if you build community around a certain thing, it's almost like you're making a gang. There's still this inner fear for people. But the reality is that community is support. Now, when you find that support can take you far. Because that support can be just enough that they don't fight it and they pay her what she's due. That support can go so far that they give her what she's won and keep it moving. See, this is the thing. We forget sometimes that it was the ones that spoke up and had their voice heard that changed our nation. It's not just the people that were quiet. See, we get it though. There are people that are quiet and that do things behind closed doors that make things happen. Let's be honest. So doing things quietly, simply like when Beyonce and Jay-Z went and bailed out the protesters down in Baltimore and another area where protesters were arrested. Them doing that, they did that quietly. They didn't go on social media and say, hey, look, we just went ahead and bailed everybody out. They didn't do that. They just went and did it. That's what I'm talking about when I say do something quietly. Please never confuse doing something quietly with just not saying anything and sitting and being an armchair vigilante. No, doing something quietly means I still make moves, but I'm making impact. That's the key word, is impact. I'm making an impact even from behind the scenes. So that's what doing something quietly means. But so when they decide that they're going to do something quietly, what does that really look like? What does that really look like? And for so many, man, they just don't know. They don't realize the power and the impact that they have. So yeah, they may be quiet. But then you have the ones that are not quiet. You have the ones that start to stand up. And it's interesting because people will say, well, I'm too shy to get on stages. I'm too shy to get out there. As an introvert, I get it. I completely understand. But understand this, that literally me getting on a stage or me getting in front of 10 women and sharing my story, me getting in front of 150 women and sharing my story, me getting in front of thousands through my podcast and live stream videos, me getting in front of thousands on a day-to-day to week-to-week basis, me getting in front of these people is not just me trying to show up and show off, but it's literally me trying to say, guys, there's something that's happening and it needs to change. Why am I so passionate about this? It's because as an entrepreneur, I've seen where things needed to be changed. As a woman who's been through abuse, I've seen where things need to be changed. As a woman who has gone through homelessness, I've seen where there's things that need to be changed. And guess what? It's the things that people aren't always talking about. It's the things that are not always out on the forefront. But I've seen what those things are. And if I see them, then I can now make a change. So what did I do? I made an organization that came together where we're going to impact social change. We're going to make that impact. So that's the behind the scenes stuff. That's the stuff where we're going and investing into organizations that are helping in the 5 areas of social change that we want to impact. That part is so simple and important. But also that means that I continue to get on stages and talk about domestic violence and child abuse. I get on stages and I tell and empower women to understand that, yes, you may have been abused. Yes, you may have gone through that domestic violent relationship, but you're here. And that stands for something because there's someone else that isn't. Yes, you are the mother that is trying to help your child heal through that abuse. But guess what? You're here. It's a new day. And that stands for something. So here we go through this whole process of healing. And it started with one person speaking up. And even though we may still have a compromise when we speak up now, even though we may still have a compromise that's there, we have that underlining conversation that people don't want to discuss. Guess what? You showed up where somebody else didn't. So no matter what that topic may be, man, you showed up when somebody else couldn't. You showed up. And not only did you show up, but you chose to do so in such a way that you were not arrogant. You were informative. That speaks volumes. People love numbers. People want to be educated, even though there are a good majority of them that are kind of still fearful of it, but they want to know what's really going on. So I applaud her for standing up. As a woman who is a mother, who I have breastfed my children, I applaud her standing up. And it disheartens me that she is going to not only had to win the fight once, but now she got to go and win another fight. Because this organization chooses or may possibly choose to try to belittle her voice. Because that's what it is in my mind. Now, you may say it's something different in yours. But if she's already won, I think any counteract that they try to do is them belittling her voice. Is them literally trying to snatch her voice back from her. She already won. That was a win for every woman that has had to go to work and still had to go and express milk. As a breastfeeding mother, that is for every woman, no matter what job you were at. That was a win. And I really feel as though if they go and they try to stretch it out, they go and they try to retaliate, or they go and they try to lessen the amount. I mean, if she lessens the amount, that's her decision. That's her decision. That's fine. But she shouldn't have to be forced to lessen the amount, and she shouldn't have to be pressured into lessening the amount. Because guess what? Her voice was heard, and a judge said that what she was saying was valid. Isn't that odd? That someone can tell you that your voice is valid, that your argument means something, and someone can still try to come in underline and say that your voice is not as strong, it's not as valid. That part. I need people to understand that the reason some people walk around with a scarlet letter is not because they've done something wrong. Sometimes it's because they do something right. But the scarlet letter is this thing that certain companies and certain demographics and certain organizations decide that they can put on a person because they don't necessarily value what that person is fighting for. Understand, that's where we are. So when your voice is heard, do you still need to compromise? She may have to. It's not fair. It's not right. We all know it ain't ethical. But is this still the society that we live in? And this is still the society that we encourage. This is the thing, and I tell this very often, that as an entrepreneur, as a speaker, as an author, I have children. And whatever I do in business, whatever I do When it comes to social change and making an impact, I'm going and I'm creating a better future for them. But I also know that they come and they speak their own mind. I've taught them that. I'm very proud of that. That they question things. They don't go and compromise on things, that they do some research and find some things out. I never want them to feel as though, as a mother, because I have 3 girls, I never want them to feel as though as a mother, they would have to make a decision, should I breastfeed or not breastfeed based upon if I'm going back to work. That's not a decision that we should ever have to make. It should be, am I breastfeeding or not breastfeeding because I choose to, not because I'm going back to a job. And the job may not give me enough time to express. The job may not give me enough space. The job may not. Listen, I get it. We're still working at companies that are kind of behind the times. But if we don't pressure them to move forward, who will? If we don't pressure them to move forward, then who actually will pressure them to move forward? And I see in our studio audience, they're saying social change is so important. Yes, it is. It's so important. And there's always that compromise, and people are just thinking that that's automatic. That's what we have to do. It's not. In some instances, unfortunately, it is. Until we make it that it will never be again. So I need you guys to let me know how you feel about that. Because when we talk about the Speakeasy Podcast, the Speakeasy Podcast is you seeing the behind the scenes of what it is to be a speaker and author. When you are a speaker, you are standing up for whatever it is you're talking about. You're standing up for whatever business business ideas you're talking about, whatever programs you're talking about. If it's motivational, inspirational, you're standing up for whatever injustice you may be speaking out on. You're standing up for that. So where's the compromise? You may go to certain events, and I've had this happen with one of my clients, where you go to certain events and there's certain things you can and cannot talk about. That part. Like, I find it interesting that you can go to schools and talk about certain things and other things you can't talk about, but they teach our children as early as 4th, 5th grade about their anatomy, sex education. But there's still certain things that we cannot talk about. So we can't talk about the abuse in date rape. We can't talk about those things, but you can tell them how to have safe and protected sex. Wow. So we kind of are running up against some broken systems. And it's up to us to be able to stand up and say, okay, well, we know what the system is that we're running up against. How do we change it? We could all do lawsuits, but again, we see that that's not really effective, because even if we win, we may not have won. Now is the time for us to be documenting these things. Now is the time for us to be writing the books. And like I said, the standing on stages and recording these messages and going and doing these podcast interviews. And I would love to reach out to her and connect with her. And because I'm not too far away, I'm going to do so. I'm going to try my best. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to, y'all know, I don't want to be no stalker or nothing. But I would love to have her on as a guest, because guess what? That's what Speakeasy is all about. And she may not be a paid speaker. She may not speak out any other time about this. She may not go on any television shows. She may not go to any conferences. She may not go to anything else, but she spoke up. That's what being a speaker is. Before you get to the paid part of it, before you get to being the paid speaker and having people pay you to speak, before you can have books and all of this is what it is. It's standing up against something. and say, I'm not going back down. I would love to have her on as a guest. That's going to be what I work with. Understand that your voice is powerful, even though someone else may say it's not. Your voice is powerful. It goes well beyond what they told you could do. But not only that, man, it's needed. Her voice and what she just endured and what she just went through, it's needed. It can be the driving force to change these companies and how they handle mothers who are breastfeeding. It can. Can it go to the point of her being, like I said, her writing books and her going and speaking at different conferences and her being a paid? It sure enough can. That's where it starts. That's the spark. You know, it's interesting when we were kids, you know, you had those moments where you get mad. And you get mad and you get mad and you huffing and you puffing and then you scream or you fight or you lash out. Many of us have been taught that moment when you start to get mad, you're supposed to let it go. And I get it, in some instances, it's more advantageous for you to let it go. But not every time. I don't think this is a great opportunity to let it go. So I applaud her. And every other mother that is going to step up behind her and do the same thing. I applaud her. Because it speaks volumes. But with that being said, guys, I appreciate you guys. I am so thankful. Thank for everybody shared it out. Make sure that if you are someone that really, this episode resonated with you, by all means, reach out, bit.ly/Speakeasy Podcast Show, and leave us a review over on iTunes. We would greatly appreciate it. That part. Let us know. Share it out on social media. Start the conversation. Have the conversation and give us your viewpoint on this particular topic. But not only that, if you're a speaker and author, I would love to have you on as a guest. bit.ly/Speakeasy Podcast. There's so many bit.lys, guys. bit.ly/Speakeasy Podcast, all lowercase, is how you can go and be a guest here on the show. I am your host, Altovise Pelzer, the voice coach, speaker, author, podcaster, and founder of the World Voice League. Guys, that's what the World Voice League is all about. It's about impacting the world in the areas of social change that we see that there's some help that's needed. With that being said, guys, I appreciate you guys. And until next time, guys, don't forget to press it out. See ya.